Hi Year 11. These are the solutions to your first assessment task for advanced maths, and this is question 6. 6A was worth 1 mark. With this question, a lot of you forgot what that actually means. That power of 2 there relates both to the 4, so we'd get 4 to the power of 2, and it also relates to the k, which would be k to the power of 8. So what I was looking for there was 16k8. So a lot of you have popped just a 4 in there and forgotten that power, so don't forget that power relates to each individual term within that bracket. To get that, you got 1 mark, you got that one right. Okay, simplifying. So this is an algebraic fraction. Mostly this was done pretty well. To get this 1 mark, you needed to get the final solution, and generally what we would do in these ones, we'd just multiply the bottom to get a denominator of 6. We'd make them both out of 6. And you can either think of it as cross-multiplying or thinking, well, I'm changing the 2 to a 6, so I'm going to times by 3. The top becomes 3x. I'm changing the 3 to a 6. I'm timesing by 2, so the top will become 4x. I don't want it left like that. I want you to add the top lines. So 3x plus 4x is 7x. I can add that top line because the bottom has the same denominator. So 7x over 6 would have gotten you 1 mark for that one. Okay, part C. This was worth 3 marks. So, having a look at this question here, in order to simplify that, you needed to factorize it. Now, a lot of you wanted to cross this x and this x out and this y and one of these y's out here. You cannot do that because there's a minus sign between them. What we need to do is factorize the top and the bottom before we can do any cancelling out. So if we factorize the top line, we're going to end up with 3, 2x minus y. And if you have a look at that bottom line, it's a difference of 2 squares, the difference being the minus in the middle, and the first term being 4, which is 2 squared. So every part of that bottom line is squared, and there's a difference in the middle, so we can write it using our difference of 2 squares rule. 2x minus y, 2x plus y. A lot of you wanted to think of that as a perfect square, which it is not. So now that we've got each part factorized, we now can cancel out because there's a multiplication happening between each of those terms, which means we can cancel out. So I can cancel this 2x minus y with this 2x minus y, and I'm going to end up with 3 over 2x plus y. You need to get all of that out to get your 3 marks. I gave 1 mark for factorizing the top, 1 mark for factorizing the bottom, and 1 mark for cancelling and giving me that answer. Okay, now D. Now, D was not done well as a cohort, okay? Now, there are a couple of ways that you could have done this. You could have multiplied the bottom terms to get your common denominator. A lot of people did not deal with that 17 on the right-hand side. So what I think you probably should have done would maybe just to factorize this left-hand term here. So the 2x minus y would have become 2 outside of y minus 5. And what you will find then is that the common denominator for our bottom on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to deal with the left-hand side first. So again, we're just going to deal with the left-hand side first. So what I can see is my common denominator for my algebraic fraction, I can do as 2y minus 5. A lot of you have done the y minus 5 twice, but you actually don't need to. So this first term can stay as it is. So I'm going to have 3 over 2y minus 5 for that one. My right-hand side, I've multiplied the y minus 5 by 2, so I'm going to multiply the top by 2 to get 14. So what I've basically got now is 17 over 2y minus 5 is equal to 17. I need to put that in there. So what you do with these questions is neaten your left-hand side up first and get that into a workable algebraic fraction. And now what you can see I have something now that looks a little bit easier, and I've still got my equals 17 on the right-hand side. So I'm going to multiply by the 2y minus 5. So I'm going to end up with 17 on the left, and 17 times 2, which is 34, y minus 5. And now it's an equation that you can easily solve, okay? Various ways that you can do it. You could expand your brackets. Let's do it that way. 17 is 34y minus 170. I can add 170 to both sides, and I will get 187 is equal to 34y, and then my answer will be y is equal to 5.5. To get your full marks, you need to get 5.5. as your answer. I also was giving the other mark if you attempted and got down to this sort of area, but you did something with the left-hand side and left the right-hand side in there. That would have gotten you another mark. Okay, part E. Part E is worth 2 marks. Now, it says to fully factorise. Now, whenever you see something with a negative in the middle, you want to be looking at it and going, oh, is that a difference of 2 squares? In this case, it's not going to be, because the 54 and the 6 don't help us. But in this case, I've got common factors that I can factorise out. So I'm going to factorise out 6x squared. I'm going to be left with, so when I do that, x squared minus 9. You got 1 mark if you got to that point. But what you're always looking to do in this course is looking to see, can I go any further with that question? That's a square, that's a square, there's a difference. So it's a difference of 2 squares. So to get your 2 marks, you needed to pick up that that was happening with that question. We'll flick over to the next page. Well, that's the 2 marks from the previous part. Factorising. Now, this one is worth 1 mark. It actually was not done very well. There's no equals in there. All I'm looking for are 2 numbers that will add to minus 5 and multiply to minus 36. And those numbers are going to be minus 9 and 4. That's all I need for that one. I don't need you to write x is 9, x is minus 4. I'm just factorising it, and that's the factorised form. Second last question, making B the subject. Overall, this question was done really poorly. Okay, making B the subject means we want to get V equals, but a lot of people didn't know what to do with this 2. So what I suggest you do is you take 2 from both sides. So I get U minus 2 is equal to 5 over V. Okay, and that U minus 2 is one whole term grouped together, and I can swap these guys around and get B is 5 over U minus 2. Nice, short, quick answer to get your 2 marks. If you did something that was correct and you moved things around to an extent, I would have given you 1 mark, but that would be what you had to get for your full 2 marks. Now your final one. Overall, this was not done well either. When we're dividing algebraic fractions, we are doing that. Some of you like to call it the KFC, KCF method. If you did that, I gave you a mark. If you acknowledged that what we do is we keep our first term, hence the K, change our second term, and flip the first one. If you at least did that, then you would have gotten 1 mark. Then, in order to get your other marks, you need to factorise the quadratic here, which is C plus 3, C plus 2. Oops. And it's not working. All over C squared times C over C plus 3. Now, you cannot cancel in this format. You needed to factorise before you can cancel. And now I can cancel this C plus 3 with this C plus 3, this C with one of these C's, so I'm left with C plus 2 over C. You need to get it in that form to get your full 2 marks.